Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what's making the headlines with the political commentator Tim Montgomery and the journalist and author Rachel Shubby. Welcome and lovely to see both of you. So let's take a look at the front pages then, shall we? Starting with the Times. The Afghan data breach on the front there after more than 100 British Special Forces, MI6 spies and military officials were named in that leak. The Metro leads with the government announcing plans to give the vote to 16 and 17-year-olds at the next election. The paper calls those youngsters Starmer's new Generation X. Though Labour might hope to benefit from the move, the Eye suggests that Reform UK and Jeremy Corbyn's apparent new party could actually have the most to gain. However, the Telegraph suggests the threat of reform is exactly why the Prime Minister has introduced the new rule. But The Guardian moves focus onto Diane Abbott and the news that she's been suspended from the party for a second time. The Financial Times reports that the UK recorded 41,000 job losses in June, the fifth month in a row where unemployment increased overall. Meanwhile, the Daily Mail writes of plans to use facial recognition cameras at this year's Notting Hill Carnival to try to crack down on violence. The Sun leads with more details on the sacking of MasterChef star John Turode over allegations of racism. So let's talk to Tim and Rachel. And Tim, you want to kick off on the Afghan data breach and the new revelations today, but with a bit of a lament, in fact. Do explain.
Well, I don't want to put words into Rachel's mouth, but I think rarely we are in complete agreement on this one. I think this is a massive story. It's about immigration, it's about our security, it's about the competence of government. And today, we have learned that it's about the security of those people who keep us safe, our security services. The Times has led on it. I think the FT has a front page on it. But sometimes the newspapers, I feel, don't actually cover the most important stuff. And I don't want to sound like a mother saying, you've got to have your Greens nation, but this is an important story that says an awful lot about the power and ability of our state to do what we expect it to do. The whole way it's been covered in secrecy as well is definitely a legitimate debating point and something that I think the press should be more interested in and invested in.
But it's day 3 and they've done pages inside and there's other things that are important. I'm just saying, I'm defending the newspapers tonight. I mean,
and some of the newspapers have done a very good job, as you say, inside. But overall, though, I think this is one of the stories that will define the period in British government when the two mainstream parties, the establishment parties, seem to lose grip of Whitehall, the delivery of government and the confidence of the country. It sort of embodies what Reform and Jeremy Corbyn's new sort of left-wing insurgent party are trying to fight against.
Yes, there's the FT coverage that you mentioned, Tim. MI6 operatives, UK Special Forces, named in the leaked Afghan database. Rachel, do you concur?
Yeah, did I say too much on your behalf?
No, I agree. I think this is a huge story. So Lewis Goodall, the journalist who wrote the story and has done an excellent job of discussing the ins and outs of this story. One of the many things that is extraordinary about this is, obviously you just think, well, if the government can place a super injunction, so can't report the story, can't report that you can't report the story, on something like this, what else is it doing?
Absolutely.
And that in itself is terrifying. It's huge. It's such a huge breach of the way our government and our parliamentary system works. So even on that alone, and then you get to the lives of these, as the FT says, as many as 100,000 people in Afghanistan at risk of Taliban reprisals. What are they supposed to think? What are they supposed to do now? I think Sky was interviewing someone the other day who is safe, but who his mother is still in Afghanistan, and just the trauma, re-triggering...
but it was done to protect people. That super injunction was there to protect those people, don't you think?
You do not know that.
That's the explanation that...
That's what the government said.
Do you not think keeping a lid on this getting out did protect people?
We do not know why the government placed that super injunction on.
Well, that's why they said it was.
Or did they do it to hide? Or did they do it to hide the incompetence that led to this?
Or did they do it because they didn't want to have conversation about asylum just before an election.
And,
I don't know why.
and there's one thing to have it to cover the period when the operations were beginning, but they kept this injunction for a long period afterwards, and that does seem to suggest that it was more about protecting their inner workings.
It sounds
than
like it was more
issue.
to protect their inner workings. Yeah, and then you've got this
But
whole
I think
thing...
it's more to protect those people. I mean,
At the beginning, perhaps.
And neither do I. But we can speculate.
But that's the point about democracy. We debate these things.
No, but the other important thing here is that the government, you know, the reason the government is now talking about it, this government, because of course at the time it was the Tories, they're like, oh, we've done a reassessment. We've reassessed, and now they're not at risk. And it's like, OK, so what has significantly changed? How on earth...
That the Taliban didn't go after as many people as they thought they might do at the time of this.
But that's not, again, that's not a satisfactory answer. On the one hand, a few years ago...
Well, you can only make an assessment, can't you? And that was, you know, an investigation leading to that assessment.
You genuinely don't see a problem with an assessment that goes, this is so severe a risk that we have to slap a super injunction on it, to another assessment a few years later that goes, oh, whoops, sorry, our mistake, there's no risk at all, and by the way, the repatriation scheme is cancelled. You do not see a problem with that, genuinely.
I didn't say
I was asking questions.
That. Over a period of time, you can see that things have, you know, that change happens.
I think it's an extraordinary change, and it just asks more questions than it answers.
And extraordinary incompetence as well, in the first place.
Incompetence is the most generous appraisal.
Right, let's see what booted it off the front pages, though. Which, no, I am, because what booted it off the front pages, front of the Metro, front of the Telegraph, etc. Voters at 16. Right, I'm going to do a poll. Who supports this move and who does not? Put your hands up for supporting it.
Oh.
Back to disagreement.
Okay, back to our normal state.
Why is this a good idea, then?
Because, look, I think 16 and 17-year-olds are an active part of society and are getting affected by all of these policies, all the decisions that are made in Parliament and by the government. And also, I just think young people are incredibly aware of the world. 16 and 17-year-olds, there's a really high on anxiety levels. Kids are not OK around the climate emergency, around things like this genocidal war that we're seeing in Gaza, which, by the way, is also not on the front pages, even though it's been going on for 20 months and should be. Young people are worried about their employment, the capacity to ever be able to afford somewhere to live, start a family, all those things. And they absolutely should have a say in those things that will affect their lives.
OK, Tim.
I think this is being introduced...
Lead for the Telegraph as well. And their argument is, votes at 16 as Starmer panics over reform. Is that a fair assessment, first of all? And then you give your view.
I think this has been a long-standing Labour commitment. I don't think it's particularly about panic about reform. It was first introduced, I think, in the UK and Scotland because Alex Salmond thought it would help him with the referendum. He thought younger people, correctly, were more in favour of independence. And I think Labour wanted to introduce this because they thought younger people wanted Labour. But I think younger people, you know, change in response to how politics changes. Younger people are generally more radical. And I think the idea that Starmer will be seen as Mr Radical at the next general election by 16, 17, I think it's much more likely to be Nigel Farage or Jeremy Corbyn that they will vote for. So I think it was probably motivated by political reasons, but like Labour generally, they're not always the most competent of parties, and I think this policy may backfire on them.
And the idea it'll generate what? Possibly 9.5 million extra voters. And the point is that young people, even at 18, aren't very ready to come to the polls, and this will encourage people to get into the habit of voting. Do you accept that as an argument? Because from my point of view, I just wasn't ready to even think about voting at 16 to 17. And, you know...
But you might have liked the choice.
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. I mean, you know, I can see arguments for it, and I understand some of the issues that you mentioned, but I just don't know how many are really ready to make, you know, fair decisions and proper decisions. I mean, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know the answer either, but I think that there's two separate things here, isn't there? There's people having the right to have a say in their future, which we may or may not agree with, and I do. And then there's a separate thing of why aren't people voting? And, you know, it's not an argument to not give people the vote. It's an argument to give people something to vote for. And I think that's the problem with our current system. People look at Labour and the Conservatives and think, well, you're both the same. I don't know what the difference is, and so I'm not going to bother coming to the polls.
Well, I'd agree on that as well. You've got to choose an age somewhere, and inevitably it's arbitrary. The thing I worry particularly about votes at 16 is it means that politics can become part of school life. And I heard a radio thing earlier where people are saying perhaps it should be introduced into the curriculum somehow for children, therefore, to be educated about how to vote. And I don't really like the idea of teachers getting involved in politics.
Yeah, but they could be taught about the dangers of autocracy and how what a privilege it is to have a democracy to be able to vote.
You look at whatever the teachers' union is now called, the leader of it, is endlessly political. And unfortunately, a large part of the teacher movement now is very political. And so I'd rather keep politics out of school, and I think this will encourage that.
Politics is already in school.
Politics is already in school.
Politics in my school, age 16.
That's my point, and I don't think it's a healthy and balanced...
From the kids, not from the teachers. Well, talking about.
I've been into school quite a lot to speak to A-level students, and they say, the teacher said to me, they're not remotely engaged in politics, but they are engaged in the Palestinian issue because they see dead babies on TikTok. And so,
And green issues, environmental sort of single-issue campaigns.
That was not mentioned at the time, but, but there we are. But yes, you're probably right. There it is, the eye, suggesting the UK gives the vote to teens aged 16 with Reform and Corbyn, as you said, likely to benefit. The Green Party possibly as well. Certainly. We're going to pause there because I fear we're going to go to the football quite soon. And I wonder if we take a break or not. What's the time? I don't know. Shall we or not?
Revealing the inner workings.
I don't, I'm trying to assess. OK, let's go to a break. Back in a minute.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power.
No freedom!
Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in.
Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous.
We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
There's always more to the news than a headline. We want to discover, to delve a little deeper, to find out what's really going on. Explanation, analysis, the people at the heart of every story. I'm Neil Patterson, and this is the Sky News Daily Podcast. So, by the end, we'll hopefully all understand what's going on in the world just that little better. Available wherever you get your podcasts.
Turkey is burying its dead. Whole families died in this collapse. Generations wiped out. I'm Siobhan Robbins, Sky's Europe correspondent based here in Berlin. This is just a small sample of the deadly arsenal taken off the streets. Anyone could say, I'll do that, and then have to go and shoot someone.
Yes.
Sky News, get the full story first.
I'm Stephen Murphy, and I'm Sky's Ireland correspondent based here in Dublin.
The waters of Ireland and Britain should be home to great white sharks.
If there are great white sharks in this area, there's no reason they wouldn't come here to feed. It's basically a buffet on a beach. This could be not only a record-breaking storm, but potentially the most dangerous storm ever to hit Ireland.
And Diane Abbott, I think.
We are doing Diane Abbott, correct. Welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me once again, Tim Montgomery and Rachel Shubby. So let us go to Diane Abbott. Suspended again, more suspensions we know yesterday as well. Rachel, your view?
I think it's horrendous that she's been suspended over this for various reasons. Look, the way that we're having this conversation about different kinds of racism is so dumb, and politics is just making it worse, and the politicisation of people saying things is making things even worse. So if I cared genuinely about anti-Semitism and anti-racism and racism, which I do, I would not have a conversation like this. The two worst things that have happened in terms of people understanding and taking anti-Semitism seriously, number one, anyone who wants to cry out for the slaughter in Gaza to stop is decried as anti-Semitic. Number two, it's used factionally by political parties to attack their own political opponents. And there's this perception that anti-Semitism gets treated, it's elevated, it's taken more seriously than anti-black racism. Diane Abbott, by the way, we had a report, a leaked report, which Martin Ford did a report about leaks in the Labour Party where she was called horrendous things by people in the Labour Party. Just eye-watering racism coming from people in the Labour Party. I'm not sure they've ever apologised to her for that. Go on.
Yeah, go on. I just want to specify what it is that she's alleged to have done, which has led to the suspension. And it goes back to an Observer newspaper article that she wrote in 2023, which she seemed to accept. She agreed with in a BBC interview. She wrote, "It is true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience this prejudice, but they are not all their lives subject to racism." Thereby, it seems implying that racism is about the colour of your skin and no more. And I know you dispute that as an assessment of it, but, you know... Well, so does that show that she does not understand other forms of racism, then? Is that the point?
Well, first of all, as I understand it, these latest comments were her, a black woman MP who receives a horrendous amount...
I'm going to stop you there. I do apologise, Rachel. Football. It's been really stressful, let's be honest about it.
I think Diane Abbott would approve of this.
We have breaking news. England have just beaten Sweden on penalties in the quarterfinals of the Euros, and they went on and on and on, and I couldn't watch, and it was awful. Anyway, luckily Rob Harris is there. Rob, goodness me.
This is simply incredible. England have just won 3-2 on penalties. It went to a 7th round of penalties, and ultimately England's winner in her 7th tournament with England, the winning penalty from Lucy Bronze. And just after she scored, Sweden missed theirs. It was a dramatic game. England should have been down and out. They were 2 down after 25 minutes, but then staged an incredible comeback with 11 minutes to go. It was Chloe Kelly, the creator of the comeback, one of the substitutes, and bringing it all back was Lucy Bronze then, starting the comeback, providing the lifeline, then an equaliser from Michelle Adjaman, sending the game into extra time. England held on. It was an anxious penalty shootout with goals, so many misses, until Lucy Bronze stepped up with that 7th penalty and scoring. And then finally, Sweden missing theirs. And what a night. The England fans are celebrating behind. You're live on Sky News. Come on. The fans are shouting, "We are English," harking to the phrase "proper England" that has been the inspiration of Serena Wiegman. England are through to the semi-finals. It looked like being their earliest exit of a tournament since 2013 for the Lionesses, but now the defending European champions march on into a semi-final against Italy. There is Lucy Bronze scoring the 7th penalty. She's the most experienced player of this team, her 7th major tournament. And you can see there from the graphic just how many misses there were from both the teams, until finally then it was all dependent on could Sweden score their 7th penalty. No, Holmberg stepped up to take it, and she put it over. So it is Lucy Bronze here celebrating. We've heard Sweet Caroline playing out. The match 2-2 after 120 minutes, and then the most anxious of penalty shootouts for England. Winning 3-2 in the shootout. There were the misses. I think I added to 4 misses in the end for England. But ultimately, this has been Serena Wiegmann and the Lionesses saving themselves. It looked like they were out of this Euros, but they've staged the most incredible of comebacks. And just like at the World Cup in 2023, when they had to win in a shootout in the last 16 against Nigeria, they're through, and this journey continues at the Euros.
Emotionally exhausting, I would think you described that, Rob. Thank you very much for everyone in the stadium, everyone here, everyone at home watching that. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you in a bit when you get a bit more reaction.
I wish the viewers had seen you two in the commercial break we had recently, because
you walked over and started watching it.
Eventually I did, but I felt we weren't concentrating on the papers. I have to.
Well, Rachel's sister is there. I mean, she will be delighted because she presumably stays to watch another game now, doesn't she? So
yeah, she's been a fan of the women's football for a long time, and yeah, she's really she's saying that the whole thing is brilliant. It's incredibly well run. Just being there is amazing. She also likes wild swimming, so the lakes and the football are perfect combo, I would think.
I have extra time now that I can't call my mum. It was always traditionally you mustn't ring me during Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah.
Now it's an England women's football match. I'm allowed to. I'm an orphan for that sort of 90
yes, you
minutes.
can't take your eyes off it.
Yeah.
We've only got a minute left. I'm looking at the papers. Maybe there'll be a bit of rejiggling of the photos. Rory McIlroy on the front of the Guardian, for example. They might switch that.
There might be some women instead.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the Financial Times. They talk about the jobs figures out today, suggesting that once again Rachel Reeves is under fire. Tim.
Yeah, well, growth was meant to be the central mission of this government, and it was the one thing probably Liz Truss got right. Britain has become a low-growth economy, and both Prime Ministers Truss and Starmer promised to focus on it. We all know what happened to Truss. I don't think Starmer has made it a priority. He basically gave economic policy to Rachel Reeves. It's not working out. He's becoming very interested in economic policy for the first time. And I think we're going to have one hell of a budget this autumn. This is the prelude to that. Britain's economy is going in the wrong direction. There's more and more evidence of it. And Rachel Reeves has some of the toughest decisions the Chancellor has ever had.
OK, 20 seconds. Rachel.
The FT is reporting that some of this, at least, is down to national insurance contributions and the effect of that. National insurance is a regressive tax. Tax the rich. There's a very easy way out of this. Tax wealth rather than income.
They all fail wealth taxes.
20 seconds.
Including Sweden.
Tim Montgomery headbutting the desk and say thank you very much indeed. Rachel, Tim, thanks very much indeed. Right, we'll have full reaction, obviously, to England winning that quarter-final in very distressing fashion, one has to be said. Just hard work to watch, but well done to them. They go on to the semis.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live.
Live here from Washington.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place. And all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.